What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today is my September wrap-up. I don't know if it's just me, but September always seems to fly by. I still managed to read 6 books. So here is the stack for September. As always, it's the most random mix of books I could have possibly chosen. I tend to like mood read, and so it's just like whatever I'm in the mood for at the time. And so sometimes that just creates the oddest little mix of books. But anyway, okay, so the first one that I started in like late August, and then it carried me into September because it was a little bit, it's not dense, but it's just a lot of facts and a lot of numbers and that kind of thing. It can be a little bit dry, but overall I enjoyed it. I ended up giving this one, I don't even think I gave this one a star rating, because like, how do you give a book like this a star rating? But it is Rachel Carson's Silent Spring. So she wrote this in the 60s. It came out in 1962, and it was her basically documenting the detrimental side effects of different like fertilizers and herbicides and that kind of thing. This book is literally the reason why there were laws passed. It's because of her work here. And I just think it's one of those books that it almost should be like required reading in maybe like an earth science class in school. I'm always finding books that I'm like, why was this not something I came across in school? Because it's just such an important, it's almost like a historical document. It's one of the only books that I've read that truly caused actual change in the world. So she takes us through about 20 years, maybe even more than 20 years of data that she had collated, analyzed, and concluded that, you know, all of these chemicals were causing really serious issues. Sometimes it was like cancer or something like that, or sickness in the animals or even in the humans, and sometimes even death. So the entire sort of pesticide industry is basically a result of the Second World War. When we were making things like Agent Orange, we realized that there were certain chemicals, if we combined them, would kill like the ants, or I forget what kind of like insect they were testing on at the time. The problem is that these pesticides and herbicides are super, super harmful. She basically kind of slowly untangles the very tangled web of the impact that these chemicals are having on humans and animals and the earth. It's just, it's one of those books, like, I'm glad I'm reading it many years after it was published, so I can see that like, oh, actual like change was made and certain laws were implemented to help keep us somewhat safe. I feel like as a child and as a teenager, you don't really care about what you're eating, about what you're putting into your body, about what chemicals might be coming into your home on your clothes or your furniture that you're buying or whatever. But as an adult, I'm becoming a lot more aware. Some of the things that changed because of this book was that JFK, he basically created the EPA. I don't know if it was him specifically, but his administration created the Environmental Protection Agency. So DDT, which is one of the big ones that she talks about that's like the most dangerous, that was banned, along with actual laws that were passed. She just kind of, this book helped to sort of propel the whole narrative into like the public sphere. So she was making the public aware of all this as well. And then of course, because there were people making money off of these chemicals, and probably because she was a woman and it was the 60s, she received so much backlash from this, which is crazy to think about, because she's literally she's saved lives, like thousands of lives, because people didn't like it. Certain people did not like that she was writing this. It's one of those books that some parts of it, some like sections of it, are gonna read kind of like a scientific journal. I thought it was worth my time. It's good every now and then to just read a really good, hard-hitting nonfiction to kind of break up all of my fun fiction. So anyway, that was Rachel Carson's Silent Spring. Next, I listened to an audiobook on Spotify. This was a recommendation from a subscriber, actually, so thank you so much. But this was The End of Loneliness. This was for my Reading Around the World challenge for Germany, and we are following 3 siblings after the death of their parents. That's not a spoiler, I think that's literally in the blurb. And they are shipped off basically to a boarding school. So we have Jules, he has a brother and a sister as well, Liz and Marty, and there are quite a few different time jumps throughout, because we're sort of just kind of hopping around in time and kind of zooming in on like certain moments in their life, all throughout their kind of teenagehood, their formative years on into adulthood. It was very much like a family drama. It is very much about grief, so it is quite sad. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I think I was waiting for the writing to get a little bit more like descriptive. I felt like it was more, sometimes it would more tell us what was happening rather than like showing us. But we instantly care about all the characters. We automatically fall into their little family unit so easily, and we feel for them each. They're all very distinct and very different, which I like, because sometimes with like sibling books, sometimes they're not super distinctive. The book as a whole is kind of exploring these ideas of like, I know that we're experiencing really intense, important things, and I know we're going to somehow maybe reap some sort of benefit from this in the future, but right now I can't see the positive. So I love books that explore the concept of like, who would you be if you hadn't met this particular person, or who might you be if you had met this person sooner in your life. It's family, love, sadness, grief, friendship, relationships, siblings. It covers a lot of general life stuff. It's just one of those kind of slice of life type books. Luckily, it has a relatively hopeful ending, but it literally takes like the last line, like it's like the last sentence. So it is like 99.999% sad, and then you get like a nice little sort of uplifting line at the end. So, and then a reread, which I almost never do, but I reread Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo this month. I was just so ready to get into the dark, spooky vibes. This was kind of my like transition book into like the spooky. If you haven't read this and you love dark academic books, then like this should definitely be bumped super high on your TBR. I had only ever listened to this previously. I listened to the audiobook on Spotify when it came out. It is a duology, so there is a second book. The sequel is Hellbent, and I believe that's it. I don't think it's supposed to be a trilogy or anything, so I think it's just those two. But this follows Alex Stern, and she can see ghosts. She always has been able to ever since she was a kid. And so Yale, I forget exactly how, and I don't want to spoil anything, but something happens and they are made aware of the fact that she can see ghosts, and so they want her for one of their secret societies. She's very much just like a street rat who's plucked from her home, given basically like a full ride, like a free scholarship to Yale. But she ends up being welcomed into this world of creepy, magical rituals and all the things that you would imagine from a secret society. And the plot is mainly focused around her mentor. He goes missing pretty early on in the story. So the plot is kind of split between her trying to figure out where he is, what's happened to him. They think he might be in some sort of like limbo space. And then simultaneously, she's trying to solve a murder. So people in the town don't really seem to care about this particular girl. Her name's Tara. She's been murdered in New Haven, and so even though nobody in the town seems to really care, Alex wants to solve this murder because she kind of sees part of herself in Tara. It's just all the vibes. I love it. I gave it a 4 stars, so it's not like perfect by any means. I did read the second one, and I'm the type of person, if there's a series, but I'm not like super obsessed with the first one. Excuse you. Can you be quiet? I'm trying to film something. If there's a first one and I'm not really obsessed with it, I just won't continue the series, but I did read the second one. You get like the map at the front, the map of the town, and I love the dichotomy between this very prestigious, kind of stuffy Yale secret society, creepy magic witch stuff going on, and then a very normal girl who's she's very rough around the edges. Very obvious that she doesn't belong. But I really liked that, and I like her snarkiness, and she's just she's a fun character. She's got fun little quips. If you like dark academia, this is one that you need to read for sure. That's Ninth House. What's next? Next is the one that took me most of the month. I started this on September 1st and did not finish it until the 25th, because it's nearly 900 pages, but I was here for it. I was here for the whole thing. I love these books so much. If they weren't so well written, I would probably have quit them long ago. That's Drums of Autumn by Diana Gabaldon. This is the 4th book in the Outlander series, and I'm loving it. This was definitely kind of a slightly slower paced one. It felt a little bit quieter than some of the previous ones that I've read, but still a very good story. She is just such a gifted writer. She really is. I love like every sentence too. It's like kind of crazy. And I believe she's still writing them. It's supposed to be like a 10-book series. I think that she's published 9, and so 10 is like maybe on the way. We don't know, I'm not sure. But this is basically following, if you somehow don't know, our main character is Claire, and she went through some standing stones, like a stone circle, and they took her back in time to the 18th century, where she fell in love with a Scotsman named Jamie. It's just their life story, like them making a life together. So we see them like building a cabin from nothing and having interactions with like the Native Americans and trying to communicate with them. And other than the fact that it takes place in America, is that her daughter, there was like a time jump in the previous book, and so she ends up back in the 18th century because she goes through the Standing Stones as well. We have all of the romance that's always there. That's kind of the heart of the stories, like the romance between Jamie and Claire. These are like a great autumn curl up for, you know, the entire month to read a 900-page book type of story. So I do love a nice cozy fantasy, romantasy. And so that was Drums of Autumn. Then to kind of switch things up, I remembered that I had this poetry book from Brian Turner, who was the workshop leader for like a writing retreat thing that I did last October. I bought 2 at the gift shop before I left the writing retreat, and this was the second one that I hadn't quite gotten to yet. This is The Wild Delight of Wild Things. This is very much another book about grief. So this is another really heavy, like it feels like it should weigh a lot. It's a very heavy book. A book dedicated to his late wife who passed away from cancer. And so we read a lot about that. There's a lot of poems in here about her, about his grieving and moving on and that whole process. There's something about them though that's still so beautiful. And I love, you know, poetry that can do both. This was really wonderful. He does have a way of like talking about something so heavy, but then also making it kind of like hopeful and kind of giving you a little bit of a lift at the end. You can tell it was probably a very cathartic experience for him to write this. And I love that he bookends it with a poem by her. Her name was Elise, his late wife. The title comes from one of her poems, big trigger warning. It does talk about cancer pretty explicitly. I mean, you even know some of the drugs that she was on, like some of the things that she was taking. It's very specific. It's very heartrending. And I will say I don't really ever cry at books. It takes a lot for me to cry at a book. I don't know that I've ever cried at a book. I did get a little choked up on about two or three of these where I didn't fully shed a tear, but I was like almost there. So, and that's saying a lot because I just really don't cry at books ever. And then finally we have kind of a confusing one. This is one that I have quite a few little tabs in it, but I'm still confused. I'm still puzzled. I don't have the answers. I'm not sure if we're supposed to have the answers. This is Daughter from the Dark by Marina and Sergei Dyachenko, who wrote Vita Nostra, which I'm obsessed with thoroughly. It's one of my favorite books, so I was like a little bit surprised at this because I didn't love it. So we were following a radio DJ. His name's Aspirin. Like the pain reliever, because when I read the blurb, I was like, aspirin? Surely it's not like aspirin. No, it's aspirin. And he stumbles upon a girl in an alleyway with a teddy bear. He's being chased by like a pit bull or something. And so he's like, grabs her and he's like, you need to come with me because there's like a dog chasing us. You're gonna die. And so she ends up at his apartment because she's just like there on the street by herself, like seemingly homeless or lost. We don't know. And this girl is very odd. She's very weird. She claims to be a musical prodigy and learns how to play the violin in like a matter of days. And she's using these strings that maybe seem to have some sort of magical element to them. Like it has like the subtlest little whiff of magical realism, but it's just like barely. And then there's something going on with the teddy bear as well. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of cool conceptual things that are brought up in the beginning. And you're like, okay, I'm here for the ride. We don't know. We don't know. We don't. Really the only thing she ever says is that music is like her people, whoever they are, whatever that's supposed to mean, live music, like they are music. There's a man at one point, a barefoot man who seems to know her, and she says something about like he can't come in unless you invite him in. So then I was thinking like vampire, right? Because that's like a thing, like vampires can't come in unless you invite them in. But then that was never explored or brought up again. Somebody read this book and then tell me what you thought. I don't know. It's literally a total mystery. I didn't get enough to even make any kind of guess, like any kind of educated guess. I have no hypothesis. So this got a 2 stars from me. And the writing isn't like really exceptional either. Really been like holding on to this one too for a while because I knew it was by them and I was thinking I was going to be obsessed with it. And I was not, unfortunately. Not at all. Basically, the concepts were cool, and then there was no delivery. They gave us absolutely nothing. So that was Daughter from the Dark. And that is it, y'all. That is all she wrote. I'm very excited for October. You guys stay tuned for vlogtober. I'm not going to be doing every single day of the month because that would be insane. Last year I did it every week, like one video a week. I'm going to try to do it a little bit more often this year, but you'll be able to see like what I'm reading a little bit quicker than having to wait until like an October wrap up. So I'm going to be doing lots of fun things. I'm definitely going to be going somewhere, haven't really decided yet, some sort of cabin in the woods. And then of course like the pumpkin patch and that kind of thing. So shopping, decorating for fall, all of that is yet to come. So you guys stay tuned. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.